All of our lives are just slipping by us every single day. We go to work for many hours on the time. And we come home after it all. And we get paid for our labor. We get paid money that is made by the government to buy things that are authorized by the government. And we truly don't own anything. So what was it all for? That's the discussion for today. You've given them your time. You've given them your effort. You've exchanged what little innocence and what little soul you had left for currency that gets you nothing. What has it really all been for? What does it really mean to thrive in a society like the one we live in today? I'm here to tell you that it's failed, it's flawed, and it's going nowhere. Every day that you work is a day lost. Every day that you work for these companies is one less day you have for yourself. Because sure, you might need this money to survive, but humans have been going on for many, many years, and our productivity only goes up while our wages stagnate. Isn't that ironic? How come we're working harder than ever to keep afloat? How come people need to have 4 jobs to survive, to own a house, to have kids? You ever think about that? If you've ever wanted to have kids of your own, how impossible it seems to juggle all of that. And even if you did have enough to maintain a family, how much time are you spending with that family? How much influence are you injecting onto your offspring? Because if you can't be there to teach them anything, are they really your kids? If you're not there to be with them, and you're wasting your time going away for basically the entire day, only to have one day off on the weekend. But you have to be the breadwinner, don't you? You have to make an income. You have to be a salaryman. That's what it all comes to. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks that that's the reality, the truth. That we can't have what we need anymore. We don't have time for it. We're not allowed to have time for it, or else we suffer. Unless we get priced out of normal everyday lives for slavery, essentially. Have you ever heard the term wage slave? I find it very fascinating how slavery turns on itself into the modern age. Because now people are more willing to work if it means their survival. They're willing to work for a higher up, someone who's in charge of a huge group of people, the owner. And it runs deep. Now there's people that are being owned, and this is like in a company or something like HR or whatever. There's people above the regular employees. There's people above the managers. There's people above the franchisees. What is the word? Whatever. And there's the CEOs too, all the way at the top. And who knows? Maybe the CEOs are also being manipulated and being controlled as well. Maybe they're not entirely free either. Is anybody free? Or is everybody just paying off debts, whether it be financial or, well, otherwise? What has it truly all been for? And we just give into it too. In fact, we treat it like a privilege to be hired, a privilege to work. And we feel bummed out when we get fired or if we're rejected. But that's not how it used to be. Not at all. You know, I'm sure if I used a time machine right now, and I went back to the 18th century and I dressed the part and everything, I just walk up to a farm, a plantation, and say, all right, I'm working for you guys now. And they'd be like, all right, welcome in. Dinner's at 7. Isn't that a funny thought? That life was so simple back then. You can just walk up to someone's house and be like, I want a job here. I want to help out here. I want food for my family. So let me work for you. And they were like, yeah, sure thing. You're working with us now. And that goes for any profession too. You could be a blacksmith. They'll take you in. They'll be like, all right, this is what we're going to do. They'll teach you. They'll take you under their wing. That stuff doesn't happen anymore. It's all commercialized. You have to go to college. You have to get a degree. You have to be so many years experienced in order to land a job. And I think part of that, it could be the population density, you know, more people, higher demand, less jobs for everybody. And I get that. I understand that that's how it kind of works with population, right? But I think people have to work to survive. Because if we don't work, if we stand idly by, and nothing gets done, then we've produced nothing. We've acquired nothing. And that, I believe, I agree with that. No one should ever not have to work. The men have to toil in the fields, and the women suffer labor pains as the price for our sins. We don't live in the Garden of Eden. So we have to work for our survival. We have to earn it. But we've taken a lot of liberty as humans into what jobs actually mean, what they actually go for. Because we're all under the illusion that we're free. We're all under the illusion that, oh, we can just get our job and we can quit whenever we want. And we can just do whatever, you know? Freedom of speech, freedom of jobs. That's not a thing. No. We can't just switch on a dime what our profession is. It used to be that way. You could be like a religious scholar, and then, you know, in the off seasons, you can also be like a tax collector. There's a whole bunch of different things you could have done, even back in the medieval era, right? And the thing about caste systems too back then is you were kind of born into your role in society, but they all function to create basically a kingdom. But what we have now is just kind of soulless. Like, we're under the illusion that we're free to do whatever, that we're in control of our lives. But like, for those of the people that actually take a step back and look and think, it's pretty obvious that's not the case. We don't have a lot of options to keep afloat, to provide enough to even have one kid. A kid that you could barely own. A kid that you could barely raise on your own. I don't agree with America that we have to go through an education system. That right there is very telling of who's really raising our kids. Because the government controls inflation, which also controls our salaries, the minimum wage and all that. And then they control prices, and all of that combined, you know, I thought we live in like a democracy, right? We all have the power, but no. No, we elect someone one time, and they pretty much, they work together. They're a hive mind. They have an agenda. They don't work for us. Once they're in office, they follow the money, guys. They follow all the money. Whoever's paying them the big bucks. Because corruption is a thing. It's real. Don't let anyone tell you corruption is not possible in a democratic election. In a democracy. I should probably get back on point here. So, looking back at your job, let's say you live as an accountant. You're an accountant for some big tech firm or whatever. You file their taxes and their money. Okay. You do that for somebody else. No one does that for you. And the person you're doing it for probably could do it themselves. But you're doing it for them. And they're paying you money for it. Which, I mean, I don't disagree. I think people should be able to, if they're rich enough, they should be able to hire people to make things easier on them, right? So that they have more time for whatever. But I think, and this goes for a lot of people too, but it doesn't feel like we're connected to this person at all. It's so transactional. It's become very, because back, even in the 19th century, right? Or 19th century. Yeah. 19th century and 20th century. That time period. You would have to be very connected to your employer. You'd see them every day. You would know who you're working for. And if you don't agree with them, then you would just not work for them anymore. And you'd find somewhere else to work. It'd be that easy. Nowadays, we just have to put up with everything. The disrespect sometimes that we feel in the workplace. We have to put up with office politics. That didn't ever used to exist. People just worked. Now it's such a drama. It's just rampant with sin now. Because we've allowed it to become something unnatural and distasteful. If we disagree with our employer, what options do we really have? We're not secure enough as a society to just switch jobs on a dime and be secure and be comfortable and be thriving. It's just not feasible. And there used to be an incentive as well where you'd be given benefits for staying with a company. The loyalty thing. But what is loyalty anymore to a company, to an organization? They could care less about you. You're just a critter doing their busy work. And they don't care who you are. They'll fire you for the smallest things. HR has ruined work culture. What it means to actually work. And another thing too is women in the workforce. I don't think women should be working like men work. Not only does it create more scarcity for positions for men, it ruins romantic relationships. It creates drama in a place that's meant to be productive, which doesn't create productivity. It actually decreases it. And now we have to fill quotas to have women in our offices. And I think that takes away, that's another reason, the school system, the education system. Women in the workforce, if both the women and the men are in the workforce, and they have a child together, somehow, some miracle, they come together and they're like, all right, let's start a family, but I'm still gonna be working. You know, you can take maternity leave off and then come back. Who's raising the kid then? If you're both working, you know, basically 13 hours a day. Okay, that's a lie. More like 12, 11 hours a day, something like that. Because not only you have to drive, think about that, you have to drive, you go to work. Driving is basically work that you're not getting paid for. And I've heard that said before, but I'll say it here as well. The commute didn't used to be that way. You'd have like bedding, you'd have like a home on the place that you're working, basically. You'd live very close to where you work back in medieval days. You wouldn't really travel very far because traveling was very inconvenient because you'd have to live basically very close to everybody, and the places that you go to do your work would also be very close. But nowadays we can live like 30, 40 minutes a day away, at least to drive. It would probably take like freaking days to, you know, horse and buggy there. But now we have cars, we have engines, we have transportation that could take us anywhere that's like far distances. And then the thing about cars is we have all these parking lots now where people drive to and park their car. But how much space is that wasting too? Like everywhere has a parking lot that takes up so many square feet. Where we could have had like castle walls and you know, guard towers. Wouldn't that be much cooler? I think it would. Might just be my fantasy brain. Ever tell you that I love fantasy? That's kind of how I came up with this whole organization too. It's just an idea of fantasy. But the only thing that differentiates fantasy from reality is what you do about it. What you do with it. Do you let the idea die or do you run with it, you know? Anyway. You've given them everything. Everything that you can give them. They've taken it from you. And in return, ask yourself, what have you gotten in return for it all? You've given so much of your time, so much of your energy, your soul, because jobs can also be described as soul-sucking the way they are. It didn't used to be that way. People were enthusiastic about work. They actually like, it's funny to say, but they'd sing songs like think of lumberjacks, you know, in the forest. They'd be singing songs, chopping down trees, having a grand old time. And now it's also commercialized, you know, we're using these power tools that are allotted to us and we have to, you know, buy gas for it and we have to do all this stuff in the modern world. And it's not fun anymore. It's also, we have to fill quotas. We have to, you know, quotas suck. It used to be whatever you reap is what you sow. Or the other way around, I suppose. Whatever you sow, you reap, you know? Like, you put in so much effort, you create so much value, and you get rewarded for that value. But now it's like, you get paid a flat amount, but you have to fill a quota. And if you don't fill a quota, you're not getting paid your full amount. You should get paid less. And I think that makes it very competitive working. Like, you have to do all this stuff and you get paid just a regular wage. So back to my lumberjack example, you know, I used to be, they cut so many trees down, they acquire so much lumber, and then they go back and process it in the sawmill, and then they get paid for all the lumber that they've accumulated and processed. But now it's like we have all these factories and all these things in place that we just have to cut down the trees. And we have to fill a quota. We haul them on trucks. That just takes away from the process. It's not like we're doing the work. the machines we created are. And even more so with AI and all that. Although I think people currently right now, people are less concerned about AI taking your jobs and more concerned about you being fired. Because sure, AI can do your job, but if you still have a job, you're fine, I guess. As fine as you can be. I don't really know where I'm going with this part, but I'm trying to say is that you've given all of this effort, all of this time, all of this value, you've just given it away, and you get paid an annual income of 60 grand. 60 grand gets you nothing, unfortunately. I mean, it would be nice to have 60 grand, sure. You could buy a lot of stuff with 60 grand, but is it really worth a whole year of your time? A year. Guys, a year. I don't like what is become of this world when it comes to purpose and what we spend our time on. We are given so many lies about our current situation. That's just not true. We are told that we own our own lives and we're our own bosses. That we, are supposed to work until retirement, but even then, retirement age is getting pushed back further and further with inflation. And I feel like when we hit rock bottom, we're only just gonna stay there because that's what they want. They want us to hit rock bottom and remain there and remain as their slaves. We'll only be paid enough for our daily bread and nothing more. We'll own nothing. We'll have nothing. And the illusion that we own anything is just that, an illusion. Honestly, it's just not right. It's wrong. It's all wrong. And messed up. What have we all done this for? What's it all been for? And I can harp on more and more about what we lose by just living our lives this way. Because that's what we're doing. It's so monotonous, so meaningless, so lifeless. We're a cog in a machine that hates us. And we could just be replaced when we get damaged. When we don't function 100% of the time. If another cog does it better and faster, you're out of there. It's just evil, really. God made it so that man would have to work, had to create value, have to go out and reap what he sows, to toil in the fields for his daily bread. But we can't even get that anymore. We can't even get what we're allotted anymore. We generate all this value for a machine that cares little for us. The only caring that they do is when you step out of line. That's when they come and be like, oh, now you're gonna be a problem. Now we can't have that anymore, you're gone. But I think we should be a problem. because it's just not fair. It's not right. Whatever happened to the union? People standing up for wages, people standing up for fairness in the workplace. People just accept it now. They're so demasculated. They can't even stand up for what they believe in because they don't believe in anything anymore. That's how we've been conditioned. Do what we're told and obey. But who are we obeying? Because if it's not God, then it's not worth obeying. Do you understand? Let me say that again because it's very important. If we don't obey God, it's not worth obeying. We can go and worship all these false idols, serve our masters that only work for themselves. And it generates no community, no loyalty, no soulfulness. Our soul is being ripped from us, not only by these corporations, but by the demons that put this system in place. You think this was a coincidence? You think humans are only doing what's good for humans? Because I'm pretty sure 90% of the time, humans do what's wrong for humans, especially to ourselves. And in the modern era, it's just so easy to fall into that. It's so tempting. It's just right there. Easy pickings. It's just easier to obey our demonic overlords. And I hate that. And I hate how people have lost hope in the good, have lost hope in a better future. I haven't. I'm here talking about a better future, and you're just sitting there listening. I encourage you to do something about this. This is an issue. This is life or death. And you're gonna die as a brainless soldier for a demonic army. That's what you'll amount to. That's what it's all been for. Just a cog in a machine. A cog in a machine that only wants to take from you and give you scraps. Sure, they'll oil you every so often, but it seems like we get oiled less and less each year for more and more turning. Doesn't that wear us out? Doesn't that burn us out? Doesn't that kill us from the inside out? All this stuff has been for naught. We've given them everything. We've fallen in line. And I do think there are good jobs out there. They're not entirely gone. But I'm talking about the average job you'd go into as a college graduate too. College and school, the school system, it doesn't prepare you to be your own person, to go out and make your own works. It doesn't prepare you for that. It prepares you to do what you're told, sit, obey, raise your hand to ask questions, and you basically get ostracized for thinking outside the box. Even though that's what schools tell you to do. They say, think outside the box. Brainstorm. Think about this. Well, it's ironic because at the same time, they're encouraging you to not think for yourself. To listen to what you're being told and memorize it. Because if you don't, you'll get marked down. Those A's you got in school, just imagine you're being assessed at work. Who's assessing you? It's basically competitive to see who generates the most value. We'll keep those people. But to the people who are generating enough, but not as much as the people on the top, the A ranks, the grade A people, if you're not generating that much, well, you're not worth keeping around. And that's how they take more from you and give you less. They'll pay you the same amount as someone who's like, does enough, but they won't keep the people who do just enough. They'll keep the people who go above and beyond. They'll keep those people, and those people will lose more for the same amount of money, for the same paycheck. And whatever happened to asking for raises too? I mean, sure, you could go and say like, hey, if you're gonna put me in a higher position, I want more money for this. Right? That's reasonable. But I mean, when times get tough, and believe me, they are, we need to be compensated to adjust, or else we're all gonna fall. We're gonna die out here. We'll be given just enough oil to turn the gears until the day that we become brittle and break. And when that happens, we won't have anything to show for it. There is no repairing what is lost. Time lost is time wasted. And vice versa, yeah. So what should we do about this? What can we do to make it so that our jobs, our professions, mean something to us, generate value, and compensate us accordingly? And the only option really is just to create a business, a company, but that's what everyone else is doing. But what if, this might seem strange, but we have to work towards a common goal to produce anything of value. I think that's what it comes to. Because the way things are right now, to put it into perspective, we are giving everything that we could possibly give to these people. We are putting our entire beings into these companies that give us no loyalty in return. No safety, no security. What, we get a couple weekend days and paid leave? Vacation days? What's it all for? What are we doing? Ugh. I hate this. This feeling of hopelessness and dread. That we can't live lives without living for other people. Sure, we do need to serve others. God commands it. We have to work towards helping people. But the jobs we work for now are not working for people. They're working for one person at the top. And you might be thinking, well, what's the difference between that and a kingdom? And I think a kingdom means more. There's more national pride in a kingdom than a company. Yeah, I'd rather live in a world where I work under a king than work under just some CEO that I can't even see. I don't even know the name of. Barely. I don't care about them. They don't care about me. A king can care about his loyal subjects all he wants, to his heart's content. But a CEO only cares about who's generating the most value. A king cares about the byproducts. what's being produced. He doesn't nitpick. He doesn't go out and say, oh, this person's not being as productive as this person, and thus they're generating less wealth. No, the king will only pay you. You'll only be paid how much value you generate, how much effort you put in. He'll pay you accordingly and fairly. That's at least how I see it should be, at least on earth. Because once we're in heaven, we don't have this material need. We don't need to eat. We don't need to toil. But on earth, that's what we're called to do. We have to work in the fields. We have to go out there and create and do. So if you take anything from this video, just know that the job you have right now, if you feel like you're being siphoned of your energy and your time and your soul, yeah, just know that's not how it's meant to be. That's wrong. You're being stolen from. You're being robbed. Blind. They've blinded you. They've castrated your intellect so that you wouldn't rise up and fight against unfairness, wickedness, corruption. All of it. But that's exactly what we have to do. We have to rise up. We have to voice our opinions. Voice our disdain for the society that we live in. If we truly don't like our situation, guys, let's do something about it. Honestly. I don't want to sit here and just accept it like a good little peasant. I'm meant for more. I can feel it. I'm meant for greater things. At least myself. I feel divinely inspired to create good and do better. To make a world worth living in. Is that really so much to ask? To make a world that doesn't make it competitive to survive. I mean, we're not animals, are we? We don't have to fend for our survival each and every day and be under the fear of death every so often. That's really all I got today. I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.